just kind of starting over again. Hi, my name is Paul. Thank you for joining me. Tonight we are talking about exploring New Jersey's inlets. We're going to be beginning in Cape May and working our way up to Shark River. I really hope that we're going to have enough time to work our way into Shark River and talk about that kind of lake up there. There are some marinas up there to talk about, and a little bit of navigation hazards to kind of address. I'm going to be using quite a few things today. I'm going to be using the Navionics. I'm also going to be talking about some wind and waves and current. So I'm going to be jumping between the computer with Windy and the tablet. And I'm also going to be using the ENC charts from NOAA today. So we're going to be kind of jumping back and forth. So hopefully I don't get everybody too dizzy today. Some quick housekeeping things. Please try to keep yourself muted. Try to refrain from profanity. Treat everybody with respect, please. And no politics. There's enough stuff going on right now. I don't need to hear about it tonight. Okay, if you have any questions, this is not meant to be a lecture. I do not want this to feel like a lecture. Please ask questions. Please raise your hand. There's a button somewhere on the screen. I think there's an arrow there pointing where it is. If not, I'll try to glance over and look at the comment screen as we're going. I may miss it. Caitlin will send me something, a notification, if I do miss it. I've been doing this webinar in partnership with a couple of different people. John Anderson, he sticks out. He helped me out on the Delaware River. And Happy Captain's Boating Instruction, Captain Ed, he's been helping me out the entire time. Hats off to you, man. Thanks for your help. All right, so before we jump into kind of what our inlets are, I do have a couple pictures that we're going to be looking at as we move along. Let's see if I can. Was I sharing any of that? Or was I just talking?
No, it was just you with the boat lift background, Paul.
That's awesome. Thanks. That is absolutely awesome. Okay. All right. So there are a couple different places to get your weather from. At the end of Monday's conversation, we had a kind of delved into a brief conversation about, or a brief talk about, or somebody asked, hey, as I go outside the inlet every now and then at low tide, the weather kind of is not fun, or the waves sometimes are a little bit bigger than I expected, and it's not too fun. How can I kind of know in advance what's going to be happening? Service I like to use is windy.com. This right here, they have an app on your phone. I'm just going to have it on the computer for today. It works identical no matter what platform you are using. So I'm going to zoom in onto Cape May, where we're going to be starting our discussion. Some things to kind of keep in mind when you're planning, if you're going to be going out of the inlet or you're going to be out on the ocean, what direction are you going to be going? Right? Is the current going to be going with you? Is the wind going to be going with you? Yes, there are currents in the ocean. If you don't believe me, I mean, I can zoom out on this. I could tab over here, over on the right. Right here, there's a circle over here with my mouse. I can click on currents. I can click more layers. That'll open this up. Some things on here are premium features. I believe I'm going to only be using the free features while we are doing this. So if I click on currents, okay, and I zoom out, we can see the telltale signs, right? We can see the colors, we can see that they're moving, we can see that there's literal currents on the ocean, right? I can click it. If I click it, the current out here is moving at almost a knot. It says 0.7 knots. If I click, there was a little caret that I can click on to find out more information, which is at the bottom of the screen. If anyone, I'm not really sure if you can see this or not. I'm usually have this up on my monitor, and this is the monitor I'm using to talk on. So at any time you can't see what I am talking about, somebody please give me a thumbs down or something.
It's pretty good. It looks just like it would on our display.
Okay, good. All right, so at the bottom of the screen, down here, we can look and we can see that, it's saying that it gives us all sorts of information, right? It's going to give us the wind, it's going to give us the wind gusts. It's saying right now that the wind offshore is blowing at 18 miles an hour and that is gusting at 22 miles an hour. The wind is blowing north and the water is also going in that direction. So yes, the wind is blowing strong, but it should not be cresting waves, right? So we should not have those big the white water out there. But I don't really like how this looks, right? This really is not helpful at all. So something I do like to do is I like to click on the waves button right here. I'll click on the waves, and that's a little bit more interesting. And now when I click, come on, this was working 5 seconds ago. Close this. Okay, now it's going to give me 3 seconds. And when I click that, I'm not sure if I did that too quickly or not. But now that I'm in the waves icon, I clicked on the water. Now I'm going to select this kind of down arrow to expand upon it. And now I have a little bit more information here, right? If I zoom in on it, it is telling me that the wind is going north, as in the wind is going in this direction, right? And that the water is going in this direction. Okay. This is telling me is that the wind and the water are not going in alternate or opposing directions. I have to fix something on the meat. Apparently, Caitlin, unfortunately, or somehow fell off.
Back.
Oh my goodness, that was loud. Okay. I don't know how to make you a admin again. Hold on.
I'm so sorry, everyone. They changed my internet today and the box went out.
Make co-host. Okay, you are fixed. All good now. All right, so back to the weather and what we're looking at here, right? So we want to make sure that the wind and the current are not going against each other, because when they are, that will create the waves, and the wind start getting bigger and bigger and create a very uncomfortable situation. I don't want to delete that. Clear all drawings. Okay. Now I can, on this dial down here at the bottom, I can kind of move this forward, and I can, as I move the timeline forward, we can see that the pintails are moving accordingly, right? And we can see sometimes that the wind, which is the blue line, and the swells, we have swell number 2, which is the green, swell number 1, which is the orange. Swell number 1 is the wind swell. Swell number 2 is the just general ocean energy swell. All right, what we're looking for, we want to make sure that these are never really opposing, right? So here I just kind of scroll this out to Saturday at 1 a.m. And we can see here that we have the wind blowing at 6 miles an hour, and we have a swell that's blowing that is going against each other, right? Annotate this. So this is going this direction, and the swell is going in this direction. This equates, the wind is only blowing at 9 miles an hour. Doesn't sound strong, it's kind of a light breeze, but down here we can see that now we're getting a 4-foot swell. Now we're getting a 4-foot swell at 3 seconds. So that's not going to be very fun. Okay, so it's important to be watching these to see what's going on. And it's really going to help us determine when it's going to be safe to go in and out of our inlets. So if I stop clicking on stuff I don't want to click on, how do I get rid of that? No. Okay. And delete that. They're all drawings. Now if I scroll us back to an inlet, all right, now we're going to zoom in on the Cape May Inlet. We can see where this can be really helpful, right? So I can click in the center of the inlet and we can click on it. All right, and if we go back to right now, if I want to go out that inlet right now, I will be going into, if I was going out, driving my boat out of the inlet, I will be driving into a 15-mile-an-hour wind. And I'll be driving into a 1-foot swell from the wind, plus a 1-foot swell from the ocean, which is, or 1.9. Yeah, 1-foot swell at 9 and a 1-foot swell at 10. That's going to give you probably a 2-foot swell, 2 to 3-foot swell at 15 miles an hour. That probably will not be fun as we are reaching this spot right here. As we cross this right here, I can almost guarantee you you're going to have cresting white water hitting the bow of your boat. Does that make sense to anybody, everybody? If I lost anybody, did I lose anybody? Okay, Ed's thumbs up.
Good.
Okay. Clear it. So if we then kind of dial it forward, and then we can watch these telltales to see, hey, when would be a good time maybe to go out, right? So we can then watch our tides. The tides switch every 7 hours. Maybe instead of going out on the incoming tide, go out on the outgoing tide, and maybe you'll have a better ride going out, right? Or watch for a lighter wind day. So Saturday, if we look at the wind on Saturday, we're looking at a light and variable wind, right? So let's zoom this out to Saturday. Saturday, they're saying we only have a 1 mile an hour wind. That's at 4 p.m. No one goes out fishing at 4 p.m. That sounds kind of boring. Saturday at 8 a.m. Got to get out there and get some fish. We have a 2-foot 7 swell, 2-foot swell at 7 seconds, plus a 1-foot swell at 7 seconds. So it's going to be a 2 to 3 footer coming in from the starboard side with a 3 mile an hour wind. Probably going to be very light and variable. Get that out. Click on it. Click on it. And it says a 3-foot swell at 7 seconds. So that'll be every 7 seconds, you're going to have a 3-foot swell come by. And that is very comfortable. It's a moderately sized sea, but since the period, the time is more than double the height of the swell, it should be a comfortable ride. but depending upon the orientation of, that exit from the inlet, it may or may not be comfortable as you exit that inlet, depending upon where it is oriented with the wind and the current when you breach that line. But with that situation, I would say it's probably going to be comfortable and a nice day, except for the possibility of rain. Okay, stop annotating. They're all drawings. And we will. All right, now I'm starting over to, this is the NOAA ENT drawings. And I will zoom in on Cape May. Sometimes it takes a little bit for this to work. If you decide to print and have charts on your boat, you can select which of these charts that you want, and then you can have them printed. And these are what you could have paper versions of on your boat. As we zoom in and out on line on the internet here, as you get closer, the contours change, right? I just zoomed in a little bit more, and all of a sudden the contours change, and now this is kind of what we're used to seeing on our handheld devices. If we switch to Navionics on the iPad, which I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be doing, you would see even more information here, right? Even more contours. I can switch over to like a chart viewer with Aqua Maps. This is 100% a paid service. I hate that it takes forever to load some of these things. This is one of the only services that you can now transfer from your laptop to your smart device, but I do not like it because it only allows you to download a very small, very, very small area onto your device. And the amount it costs per small window or small piece of chart can add up over time. Go to full screen. This does have wind, does have current. You can get it, but it kind of plays a video and it'll give you lots of information. It can be useful when planning. And now that's going to break it, isn't it? Yeah, so here what I did was I turned on the current, and now we're getting this basically the same image that we got off of Windy, but now we have it overlaid on top of the nautical chart, and you get a different telltale. Instead of the clear lines, now we have arrows, and it has colors, right? It has the green over here on the starboard, all the way on our right or starboard side. It says 1.1 all the way down to 1.0, and on land it gives you a slower speed. We can slide the time around. It's going to take forever to load it again. All right, turning that off. That's going to be annoying. All right, let's start talking about the inlets. And let's also get rid of the waterway guide information. Thought I turned that off. None. Okay, I gotta be careful when I'm using this Aqua map because as you click, things can open that you don't want to necessarily open, and it creates this gigantic block in the view. All right, if you're coming in and out of Cape May Inlet, a couple things to be mindful of. The first thing is always stay hydrated when you're on your boat. The next is that you have quite a bit of wildlife down here at the tip of Cape May. You always have, I don't, every time I go in and out of this inlet, there are always dolphins on either side of the jetty. Sometimes even blocking the inlet, so make sure you slow down and take your time as you approach. In addition to the dolphins, there is always a dolphin or a whale watching ship or boat nearby. Just make sure you're paying attention and won't run into one of those guys. There are some range lights that you can use to find your way into the center of this inlet, to find your way in. That way you know that you are centered on the inlet. It is indicated right here. Right here, we have this white light, and then we have this red light. If you line both of these up and just kind of draw a straight line, and you follow that into the channel, you'll be nice and safe. Up until, of course, you reach this red buoy, and that's when you make the decision. Am I going into Cape May, or am I going into up to Wildwood? As you do approach into this inlet, all right, you have to be paying attention to where you're at. It's usually a relatively easy inlet to get in and out when the weather is comfortable and when the weather is cooperating. It can be challenging when the weather is not cooperating. Make sure that you do notice that we do have two jetties going out here, right? We have one on the south side and we have one on the north side. Every now and then what you'll see is you'll have somebody coming in, and I don't know if you ever pay attention to it, but every now and then when you're driving your boat, right? We're driving our boat in, and you can't always go in a straight line, right? Because we have this thing called wind, right? The wind or the current may be pushing us from the north, or maybe it's pushing us from the south. And we have to kind of crab our boat a little bit, kind of point it into that wind. And as you get closer to shore, sometimes that wind or sometimes that current kind of diminishes as you approach the inlet, right? And then all of a sudden, maybe you have that, maybe you're using your autopilot to get you to where you need to go, and you just all of a sudden find yourself over here onto this sand, or you pick the wrong angle and you're not realizing how strong this current is, and the wind or the current pushes you kind of in an arc, and you wind up missing your target and you wind up here. So make sure that you're paying attention to what you're doing, and you approach the inlet and you keep an eye out for the jetties and get it between the two jetties. Okay. Personally, every time I'm coming in this inlet, I always grab the bell buoy, and I know as soon as I have the bell buoy, I find the bell buoy currently all inlets in New Jersey. I say currently because there's an effort up in the Northeast area outside of New Jersey to remove these things. There's a bell buoy at the end of, should be a bell buoy at the end of every inlet. I grab the bell buoy in Cape May, and then I look and I find the red buoy on the inside, the red light. I just drive that line straight in, and I'm usually safe. Keep an eye out for hazards, keep an eye out for other boaters.
Paul, if I can just interject, you're spot on with everything with Cape May. The only thing I would add is that if you're approaching from the south, let's say running up from Virginia Beach or something, relatively close to shore and to the south of the inlet, my experience is there's always a lot of commercial traffic, be it fishing boats, either or barges waiting to get in and out of the inlet, especially if it's towards early morning before the sun's up. Sometimes I've seen larger ships out there, I guess, waiting for the approach to the Delaware River. So it's just a lot more commercial traffic than we see further up the coast.
That's fair. It's a fair observation. I was not planning on identifying this over here, but there is all that commercial traffic down there. Thanks for highlighting that. Make sure you're paying attention to commercial traffic. Something, I don't know if you've noticed it, Ed, but I definitely have noticed it. If you're running these inlets at night, or if you're running them for first light, you want to get out for the first light, make sure you're paying attention as you're going out of the inlet. Have your lights on and your radio on. Because for some reason, every time I cross these inlets, there's always a tug barge right at the bell buoy. And you can never tell where they're going because they have every single deck light on, and I always have to talk to them.
You're absolutely correct. I would say 1 out of 3 times running either Cape May, Barnegat, or AC or Manasquan, probably 1 out of 3 times, if it's prior to daylight, there's something commercial going on just outside the inlet.
Yeah. Okay, Hartford Inlet is, yeah. Hartford Inlet is not a difficult inlet. I do like to go to Hartford Inlet via the inside route. Okay, I do like to come in through the back via Wildwood. There are quite a few beaches. Believe it or not, there's this island right here in the middle with this green that you can see. I'm sorry to transition to the iPad, but as you probably saw on the other screen, there really is no contours for this inlet here. But right here on this island, not really island per se, but sandbar at low tide, there are some sandbars on there, and some people do beach their boats there. I don't know if they're getting yelled at yet for doing so, but sometimes people do get away with doing that, and it is good times. I'm not a fan of going in and out of the inlet. If you are going to go in and out of the inlet, I always suggest people to, there's tends to be 2 routes in and out. The main route for me has always been to follow along the shore and to follow it out. That way, there is another route to come down, and then you have to find the way out. This way really is not marked as well. It all depends on what's closing up and what is not closing up. This does tend to close up every now and then, so you got to pay attention to where those channel markers are. Sometimes they move them. Sometimes the preferred channel is A. Sometimes the preferred channel is B. Has anybody ran this inlet this year? Do you know what the preferred channel is for this year? Take that as a no.
We do have a question from Ryan asking,
Okay.
why would you get yelled at for beaching?
Some of these places, they're considered not national parks, but state parks, and they occasionally close them for wildlife management, silly reasons like that. Like up on Corson's Inlet, or like up on the next inlet that we're going to talk about. Stop annotating. Okay, if we slide up to the next inlet up here, on, oh, I don't believe there's a wildlife area here on Townsend's Inlet. Townsend's Inlet is kind of straightforward. There is lots of shoaling here. So make sure that you are paying attention. It is very narrow up at the top. Yes, Ryan. So if you are going to be going out of the channel, oh, this does show up on the other. If you're going to be going out of this inlet, depending upon what side you're going to be going out of, you have to make sure that you hug that's the Avalon side. I always mix up these islands. Is that Avalon there? Sea Isle side. Okay, so you have to hug the Sea Isle side because it gets really narrow really quick, and the shoaling has pushed the channel towards, or the deep section of the channel that is underneath the bridge over towards the Sea Isle City side. Okay. After that, you are then going to follow it down, and the channel does, again, it follows down along the south side of Avalon. All right, it goes down along Avalon, and then make sure that you follow the channel markers out. They do move these because the shoaling does move. All right, make sure that you're paying attention. Stop annotating. Slide it down. As you can see here, as I zoom in, you do have a jetty on the way out that tends to be kind of clear, but there is also, right, so it should be relatively a straight shot out. But you do get some shoaling, and occasionally they have to move those channel markers around. But it can also be, this is not like a rough water inlet. Okay, so pick this inlet and time it correctly. If you have if you look at the weather and the water and the wind are going to be going in the opposite direction, this is not an inlet that you're going to want to go through. This inlet is not going to be fun. If you look at the contours directly in front of it, all right, we can see that there is a sandbar, or whatever you want to call it, directly in front of it, right? We can see how we have 5 foot, we have 4 foot. There's going to be a whole lot of crashing waves right in front of this thing. A lot of the energy gets dissipated there. There's also a channel. I guess there's actually 2 channels. There is a channel that you can drive out in the middle of all these sandbars. That one can be tough sometimes because you'll have some really strange depth readings as you go out, because it takes you over the sandbar. All right, there's a channel that will take you out in this way, and it will give you a really weird reading right here because you cross this 8-foot shoaling area. And you can see lots and lots of white water in that area. Okay. Let's switch back to the other screen. Screen. So this is an image of the Cape May Inlet. I think we kind of share. Okay, yeah, this is an image of the Cape May Inlet as you're going out of it. On a nice day, it'll be completely clear, lots of room, so you can get in and out of there. Again, time your weather window appropriately. Yes, the Hartford Inlet. That is this is that sandbar island thing that I kind of mentioned. It kind of moves, so you got to make sure and pay attention to where it is. This is the one that sometimes they let you on there and sometimes they do not let you on there. Sometimes the sometimes the inlet goes on this side of it, sometimes the inlet goes on that side of it. It changes. Okay. All right, this is Townsend's Inlet. This is the one we just talked about. And I really wanted to show you this image of all of the white water on top of it, right? So we can see all the breaking waves that are just littered all over this inlet. So if again, if the wind and the waves are opposing each other, this is not going to be a fun inlet to go in and out, especially if you always use that other kind of northbound channel out of the inlet. All right, let's talk about Corson's Inlet. Corson's Inlet is not fun. It is, as you can see from the image here on the right of the screen, there's a whole lot going on there, and it can be really tight to get in and out of there. It's also not very well marked to go in and out of there, so you got to really pay attention if you are going to go in and out of there. The it's not a preferred or a favorite inlet. If you're going to be going in and out of there, kind of beware of that. Don't use that as a preferred inlet. All right, Little Egg, Ocean City. Sure. Okay. Before I get to Ocean City, something that I want to highlight. If you are going to be traveling along the coast and you're going to be going, maybe you're going to be inlet hopping. Something that I like to, something that I see people do. All right, I guess there's kind of two different boaters. All right, there's some boaters that after they come out of the inlet, they go over here, right? Because they think they have to be so close to land that they can swim back to the back if something happens, right? But sometimes that can get you into trouble. Me, I personally, I prefer once I get out here, I'm at the bell buoy, I stay out here. All right, I just keep going. All right, because if you look at the chart as we go north, or as you cruise along the inlet, each of these inlets, something happens, right? Every inlet is basically the mouth of a river. Okay, at the mouth of a river, you're going to have all this water that's going to be dumping out of the river. Not only are you going to have water, but you're going to have silt, and with silt, you're going to have sandbars. So here at Hartford Inlet, all right, if we stay out, if we are one of those people that come out here and hug the coast where we got to stay within swimming distance, all right, we're quickly going to have some issues right here. I know I'm not zoomed in close enough so we can see the depth. All right, but if we stay out here, change this to a green. All right, if we stay out here, we're not really going to have any issues, and we'll be able to just kind of keep moseying up the coast. You also have another issue if you go closer to the beach. There's these things called ocean waves right up against the beach, right? As the ocean, everyone's been at the beach, right? You go to the beach, you go there, you have fun, you get in the water, you have all these waves coming over. As the ocean swells get closer to the beach, they tend to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it can actually be a little bit uncomfortable if you get really close to that beach. They're all drawings. All right, I can zoom in here to the Hartford Inlet, and it's probably not even going to tell me what it is because it's real shallow. There. We're looking at 4.8. Is that giving me a weird settings? Feet. Okay, so we're looking at 7 feet. We're looking at 7 feet and less in this blue area here. Again, depending upon the direction of the swell, the direction of the wind, that could create a not so fun ride. Depending upon the draft of my boat, if I have a sailboat, that might not be a good area to be at.
If I can interject to what you were saying about running too close to the beach.
Sure.
A fear I have is depending on wind and sea conditions and direction, if I was to suffer a mechanical failure that close to the beach, I may not have time to deploy my anchor before I'm washed up on the beach and creating an even more dangerous situation.
That's valid. Absolutely valid. Good call. As we keep going up Stone Harbor, up along Stone Harbor, and up to the next inlet, Hartford Inlet, we have a similar kind of outcropping here, right? We have this sandbar that kind of comes out a little bit. So again, if you're kind of skating along the coast, you're going to find these sandbars and they could just kind of reach up and grab the hull of your boat. And sometimes there's sandbars that are here that aren't associated with an inlet. Look how big this sandbar is associated with Corson's Inlet, right? It comes out here, goes along pretty far, right? I mean, they say this is why I switched over to the other screen to show you Corson's Inlet, because they just say it's not passable. They basically say do not go through here. Okay. All right, as we come up to the Great Egg Harbor Inlet, the Great Egg Harbor Inlet is or can be a dangerous inlet. Say dangerous inlet. This inlet has claimed a couple crew boats in the winter. This one tends to claim stuff in the winter. It'll tend to claim some clammers, it'll claim some crew boats. Mainly because of the sandbars that are on or adjacent to the inlets, right? So we have a sandbar on this side of the inlet, and you have a sandbar on this side of the inlet. Okay, and they tend to be big, and they tend to be they tend to reach out and grab your boat. But unfortunately, people are very complacent. And during the summer, unfortunately, what people do is they come in here, they use the channel markers to come in and out, and they tend to start cutting corners, or what they do is they cut corner out here, and then they cut a corner in here, and they cut a corner in here, and then they cut a corner, and then they cut a corner, and then one day it's going to wind up being a full moon tide, and then they cut a corner and they wind up being stuck. So make sure, especially on this inlet and the Atlantic City inlet, that you are sticking with your channel as you're coming in and out of here. Because on the north side and on the south side, you have a sandbar that's really reaching out pretty well that can really kind of ruin your day. And this inlet, this river is really sandy right here. I don't know if anybody on the call has ever done any fishing in this area or attempted to anchor here, but it is pretty sandy in this spot. And we can see here, I just zoomed out far enough, so they literally only have 4 foot on some of these sandbars. At high tide, you might not be able to see them. There we go, zoomed in close enough so we can see them. You can see that there's some areas where it might look appetizing, where we could kind of skate through, and you might be able to squeeze through and be fine. But there's always going to be some of these shallower parts of the sandbar that are still there that can reach up and grab you. There is, I don't see it here marked on the chart, but for the Great Egg Inlet, there is a bell buoy, and there are channel markers for you to follow in and out of that inlet. As we're coming up to Atlantic City, make sure you stop and look at the elephant somewhere around here. All right, the next inlet we come to is going to be Absecon or Atlantic City. Atlantic City, this inlet has a couple things to make sure that you're paying attention to. You can already see the sandbar, right? They did come out here, they did dredge the sandbar before. They have done a great job dredging this every couple of years, but it is there, so be mindful of this sandbar. Kind of question mark here. In addition to that, you have steel pier that sticks out here. Steel pier has a helicopter ride that comes off of it, so just be mindful of that helicopter, because it kind of comes in here, lands, it keeps going. That could kind of be an annoyance to you. Clear that. You do have bell buoys to kind of mark the beginning of the inlet to find your way in. If you are coming from the south, you don't really have to wait for find the bell buoys to find your way in. You can enter the channel anywhere. There's plenty of depth no matter where you get into the channel here. You don't have to really worry about that. The only real concern is coming down from the north with that sandbar on the north side. If you do come in from the south, as I said, that you can come in at any time here. Just be mindful that there's a kind of almost like a blind turn that you could have some yachts coming in and out. But so just be mindful on your way in. If you're coming out of Atlantic City Inlet, all right, coming out, you have 2 options to go north. Either come all the way out to the bell buoys and then hang a port and go north, depending upon the depth. Or you can, depending upon the weather, just after the jetty, you can skate right across. There is a pass through right after the jetty. It is not well marked. It is not marked at all. You kind of have to know where it is. If you're from the area, if you watch a couple people do it, they'll kind of show you where it is, and you'll be fine. But be careful of the sandbar directly to the north of the inlet. There's two of them, if we could see them here, right? These sandbars did not exist until they removed the sandbar from the inlet. It's kind of ironic. Okay. Brown, so I can highlight these. Okay, so we have a sandbar right here now, and it continues over here, and it comes back up. All right, so you have to be mindful of these. They are there. They have been slowly getting bigger over the past few years. So if you're one of those people that like to hug the coast, this is going to be a spot where you could come and find some issues and get into trouble. Okay. Drawings. Some things about this inlet as you come in. Once you come in, it's pretty easy to find your way in, but it's kind of a longer inlet than the others. And the ocean energy travels with you up until almost until you get to the Brigantine Bridge. So just be mindful of that. After you get past, unless the wind is coming from your stern, once you get kind of along, if you're coming into the inlet, once you get to about here, all right, unless the wind is coming from your stern, you'll be fine. And you'll just kind of now have some really large rollers on your way in. But you sometimes have to be able to time these rollers and really know how to ride them in. So be mindful.
I've got two questions about this section.
Sure.
James is asking how far off the beach are the sandbars?
They're basically connected. So which sandbars? James, you can unmute yourself.
The pair of sandbars to the north that you're talking about.
They're basically connected to the beach.
So if you're coming from the north, how far off would the beach would you suggest to? You said don't hug the beach, but how far off the beach should you stay?
James, I run that route quite often, and you have two things going on. Coming out of the next inlet north of that little egg, that has an island that if you run to the buoys, which I recommend, you're going to be about almost a mile out. I tend to keep that same mile distance all the way down to Atlantic City.
Yeah, I was about to highlight that. Are you coming out of Atlantic City though, James?
No, I'm coming from the Matiticon, the Manasquan Inlet.
Okay. All right. So if you're traveling to this area, I mean, if we keep our boat here in Atlantic City, this blue, what we usually do. All right. If we're coming out, we'll come out to the Bill buoys, and we'll come over, and then we'll just kind of work our way in, and we'll fish all in this area, and then we'll come back all the way out to go north if we have to. I mean, if we're fishing in this area, I'll come into the hotel kind of a thing. But I give this a big wide berth. I don't play around in there. Even if I'm on the 21 or the 30, I'm not going in there and playing around. I'll do some crazy stuff. And I've done some crazy stuff in that inlet. I just prefer not to.
I'll take the mile off the beach suggestion. Thank you, fellas. Appreciate it.
Yeah. What was the other question?
There's a question about 20 to 28-foot outboards look safe in this area. Any precautions that should be taken specifically? And Brian, you can unmute if you want to ask a further detail for that.
I'd say you're good, man.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm just, you know, ripping around Barnegat Bay. It's 2, 3 feet all day long. So I think zipping down in this area with my boat, you know, I got a 23-foot Robalo. I think I'm pretty safe at the lines you're drawing.
Yeah. The lines I'm drawing, you're good. The this spot right here, this cluster is where it really comes into play. Going out of the big, I can zoom in here and I can get a decent view without it. If you're going to be going out of the Great Egg Inlet, make sure you're following. So it can be deceiving, right? So as soon as you turn the corner and you start heading out, you don't have any channel markers for a while until you get out here. And then you have channel markers to follow out. And this is also one of those where you have to cross a bar and you have to pay attention, right? So you'll be coming out here and then you'll start finding channel markers again. It's like a one channel marker and it's another channel marker. Then you got to find the next one and then the next one like way out here. But this one here is another one of those where you got to cross this bar. And you really got to be able to time it, and it gets real sketchy because you have this real shallow water underneath you. And if you're not paying attention, you could have some issues. But do it a couple times and you'll be good. It's just the first time it'll be some white knuckles.
Yep.
One
Sounds good.
caution with that inlet right there is that currently you can't run red mark to red mark because they're slightly off station and they're a little bit in the white water. So center to green mark. It's my caution there.
Sounds good. Very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. There is another inlet just south of here. The Brigantine Inlet. It is, I'm not even going to call it an inlet. It is the most dangerous thing probably on the eastern coast of the country. This Brigantine channel right here, there is a North Brigantine Inlet. It is all but impassable. There's a couple guys I know that could do it. Don't attempt it. If you like your boat, do not attempt it. That's a real big area that you got to stay that 1 mile offshore, and then once you get the buoys, the bell buoys to find your way back into Great Egg, then you follow that in. All right, then once we're still that mile off, then once you get up along LBI, you can kind of slide in if you want. Gotta be careful because there are a couple. I mean, there's not many sandbars that stick off. There's a couple. You don't want to go too close. The next inlet we're going to be coming across here is going to be the Barnegat Inlet. The Barnegat Inlet is, for all intents and purposes, for me, it's pretty straightforward. It is well marked. There's lots of boats that come in and out of here. They're always dredging it. It has, it's one of the better, I'd say it's one of the better marked, easier inlets in New Jersey. I just don't go in and out of it much because for me, it's in the middle of nowhere. But there is kind of a caveat to that. Let me zoom out enough here. So it's kind of in a weird spot in New Jersey. I'm not sure if you can see this or not. I lost my annotation button. So it's on a corner, okay? And a lot of times you're going to get some weird water out here. The water is going to be going in different directions out here because it just is, because the water is now going to be going around a turn. Sometimes you're going to be getting like a respite from the wind. Sometimes the wind now either the waves are going to change direction. It just sometimes it can be a little bit different until the seas settle back down to the new pattern, because it's a corner, and that's why they're kind of always dredging that inlet, because it's specifically on that corner, almost like an elbow, if you will, of the coast.
Well, there's also significant shoaling just to the south. It's an area you can never cut south, but often myself and a lot of boaters, we will head north once we clear the monument mark on the northern jetty. I have even this year seen some whitewater right in the center of the inlet once you exit the two jetties.
Yeah, that's that's forming again.
Yeah, you remember it. Yeah, it used to
Yeah.
be so everybody's hugging the north side and zipping out once you get past the rocks. I even come in that way if I'm coming from the south. I'll go past the inlet and come back in from the north.
Yeah, so the kind of always the standard thing has been to come in here and just kind of make this about face, to just go right up there. But kind of be careful as soon as you exit there, because there's like a 1,000 boats right here. Literally 1,000 boats. Everybody from the Barnegat Bay puts their boats there and fishes. 1,000 boats sitting there. Just be mindful on your way out. All right, going north, the next inlet that we're going to be coming across is the Manasquan Inlet. All right, the Manasquan Inlet can be deceiving, okay? If you're out here on the ocean, it can be very deceiving, because of this tower. All right, because when you're out here driving the boat, usually I'm like a mile or a mile and a half off the beach, and honestly, it's so small. Sometimes I just miss it and I don't see it that it's there, or I'll confuse this pole, this tower, with this tower. I don't know what this tower is. Tower 1 with tower 2. And then I have to kind of like stop, turn around, okay, then go back in, kind of a thing. So make sure that if you're going up in and out of it back, or going north to Manasquan, or even if you're going south to Manasquan, make sure you pick the right tower, because it can be kind of disorienting as you're going down. Okay. As you enter, I keep losing the annotation bar. As you enter the Manasquan Inlet, this inlet has an obstacle, or an illusion very similar to that of Cape May, right? So as you enter the inlet, you're bringing your boat in. All right, you have to be mindful of what the current is doing, right? Is the wind and the current pushing you south, or is the wind and the current pushing you north? Because it is such a narrow opening, sometimes I have seen it happen on occasion, is that the wind or the current will kind of drift people over up onto the beach on this side, or people will get pushed and drifted over onto the beach on that side. Only because, you know, you're on the boat, you're fighting the waves, you're fighting the rollers, and the wind and the weight and the current is pushing you off to the port. You don't realize where you're going, and then you wind up on the wrong side of the jetty. The moment you say it won't happen to me, and you kind of don't heed it, is the moment you don't realize what's happening. I don't think it's happened yet this summer, but enough things have happened so far. Going north, the next one we have is Shark River. I have never honestly been into Shark River. I do know that it's another nice and narrow entrance, so you got to be paying attention. You can also be affected by the current going into here. I don't think I have to annotate it again. Make sure you get it right on center. Make sure you get in there nice and perfectly. Make sure that you do pay attention to the boat traffic on Manasquan Inlet and Shark River. These inlets are very close together. I know it doesn't look like they're close together, but they are very close together. All right. Occasionally, I have seen people accidentally go back to the wrong inlet, and you don't realize it's the wrong inlet until you're right in front of it, and you're like, oh shoot, now I got to go south a little bit or north a little bit and get to the correct inlet. All right, make sure you go to the correct inlet. It's always the simple stuff. Okay. Switch over to Aqua Maps. All right, sorry for the moment of silence. I'm just trying to find if there is a height for this bridge. I do not see it on Aqua Maps. I do see it on Navionics. Navionics has a height of 15-foot closed on this bridge here. Of course, we've got to click on it. All right, so this has a bridge vertical clearance closed of 6.9 feet. And it does open. Why does one say 15 and one say 6.9? Not exactly sure about that. It has a dredged depth of 6.9. Okay. Coming in, we're going to come across our next bridge. The next bridge right here, the New Jersey 71 bridge. This bridge has a closed closed head clearance of 13 feet. And the next bridge is the train bridge. Is that fixed? Does anyone know if the train bridge got fixed? Had to have got fixed, right? That has a closed headroom of 8 foot. And the bridge next to it, the Route 35 bridge, does not have information. Has a height of 32 foot. Okay. There are some marinas in the area. Oh. Captain, get some information. All right, first marina that we're going to be coming to is going to be the Seaport Inlet Marina. Could be the first one on the left. Click. All right, up on the north side, there is a all right, 1 second. Let me get my okay, so is annotator. All right, over here we have the have a municipal marina right here. That's the deep water landing marina. We have the Shark River Yacht Club right here. We have food down here. Down here, we do have the Marina Grill that is at the Belmar Marina. In addition to that, we do have Total Marine at the Seaview Marina right here. And I did mention the Seaport Inlet Marina. All right, this Shark River, which is basically a lake on the inside. Make sure that you're following the channel markers once you get in here. There's really not really many places to go. You really can't scoot across this lake. It's all pretty darn shallow. The only other two marinas in the area, you have the Shark River Marina and you have the Shark River Yacht Club. This is the Shark River Marina, and this is the Shark River Yacht Club. Okay. Other than that, if you're going in and out of here, make sure you time the tide correctly. All this kind of lake area has to drain in and out from the inlet, and there tends to be a lot of boats that come in and out of here. Once you get back in here, it's all going to be no wake as soon as you enter the inlet. Or not, yeah, as soon as you not enter the inlet, but as soon as you get to this, basically to the bridge, then it's going to be no wake the entire way back here to wherever you're going to go. Okay. All right, we covered quite a bit. Apologize. Shark River is really not an area that I have boated much. Boat many other places, just not Shark River much. Did anybody want to talk about anything else on those inlets that we did talk about? We covered we talked about the Cape May Inlet, talked about Hartford Inlet, Townsend Inlet, Corson's, Egg Harbor Inlet, or the Great Egg Harbor Inlet, Absecon Inlet, Brigantine Inlet, Little Egg Harbor, Barnegat, Manasquan, and Shark River. Shark River does have a maintained depth of 18 foot. Yeah. Did anybody have any questions? Or want to see anything else?
Well, it was pretty inclusive. It was a good one.
Good, good. Thanks for joining us for this session of Whitman Marine Training's Boater's Compass. I hope you found this discussion helpful in navigating safer and smarter. As always, stay aware, plan ahead, and respect the water. Don't forget to check out our upcoming webinars. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like covered next time, please let us know. Subscribe for updates. And until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and enjoy the journey. And get out on the water and have some fun.